really nice to have these kinds of solutions available for people because not everyone has access to an LED wall or an XR stage. Like, I'm very fortunate to have one at my university um, that is surrounding my research project, but not everyone can do that. So it's nice to know that these solutions exist and people can get out there and be creative and use these tools to their advantage.
So what have been the biggest challenges for you lately, learning this and just playing with this technology in general?
I think for me, definitely one thing that I feel like I'm really missing is the Unreal background. I think you kind of want to be a little bit of a generalist going into the VP industry. You kind of want to have dipped your toes in all these different facets of the VP pipeline. So you don't feel like you're stuck in one place and you don't feel like you can't progress.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a more traditional filmmaking background. I'm a sound engineer, which that role in and of itself within VP is not very different. But definitely I can't play as much around with, for example, the sound in Unreal, which is actually what my research paper is focusing on right now.
Oh, interesting.
Implementing real time audio in virtual production. Yeah, exactly.
So you're the audio engineer around virtual production, right? Because audio is a big problem in virtual production, as you know, with latency. Generally, the audio technician has a lot on his head when a virtual production stage is going on because there's echo. There's usually not good sound treatment. Yeah, they have a big responsibility on set. So are you learning how to connect everything, all of this into one production in real time, or are you researching more of a using how to use audio in general, like how to like Unreal, I mean, sorry, like an audio technician, right? More on stage,
Uh,
right? Mm-hmm.
for the first option, how to implement this? Yeah, no, I would say more the first option, how to implement this in real time. Like, how can we bring this, this extra layer of immersion into a performance in a virtual production? How to add that to an already existing production. For example, what I'm trying to do right now with this production that I'm testing with is implementing within Unreal audio that is part of a sequence that will be playing when the actor is performing, and that will give them kind of this added layer on top of the visual. Uh, and then I'm trying to determine whether that has an effect on their acting quality, how they feel in the virtual environment.
Interesting.
And I'm more going that direction.
Okay, so are you researching more the audio side of it or the visual side, what's happening in the background, like on the LED
How
stage?
the
Mm-hmm.
how the audio side affects the actor specifically, but it's very audio focused. But audio, obviously, the biggest benefit that audio brings is when it's in like and when a coupling with the visual side. So one
Mm-hmm.
can't go without the other. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. That's a cool angle of research. Because it's not. Yeah, there's MetaSounds in Unreal. You probably may have
Yeah.
heard of them or not. That's a whole thing now about audio engineering, where you can dig into this from from the perspective of designing everything in it, and also just handling audio in general throughout the production, how it goes in and out. Yeah, there's so much things, and Aximmetry actually, which we'll be covering today, is a massive audio powerhouse mixer also at the same time as.
True. I actually did not know that.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's an all full on audio mixer built into the system. Like literally, you don't need to have like a separate thing. It
Like a physical.
it's their
Yeah.
it's their philosophy. It's the same philosophy with the video side, right? You don't need usually the LED stages were ran by some kind of real time machine that would produce the visuals from a big kind of technician stand, and now it can be changed within PC with Aximmetry, you know logged in with an Unreal project that has everything set up. So it's replacing that, that big hunk of hardware with a PC essentially. That's what's happening, and that's happening in the audio and in the video side, right, at the same time. So I have to battle sometimes with people who work on these kind of, not battle with them, but just in general have a pushback when I introduce new concepts from Aximmetry, and they're kind of used to doing things the old ways of just having hardware. They input the videos. The artist usually brings the visuals, and they just kind of cram it into the concert, and they have some audio, some things that react to audio. And it's usually, it all looks really similar. As you may know, all concerts, if they're not, hand tailored by an artist, they all look similar. The visuals, they're the kind of technician visuals, I would call them. And they have a lot of pushback in Unreal because they kind of don't have the time to learn it, while it does pose a kind of, job insecurity for them when it comes to that. So I felt that on set. But on the other hand, there's a whole bunch of other people, younger people, that understand that this is the next wave of, technology. It's cheaper. I don't have to do a big investment to play with this. And I get all the tools that all the professionals use for free. So it's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Like people, there will be pushback when there's all this new technology coming out that they're not familiar with. But like you say, I think the way to go is definitely learn and adapt and go where with the times.
Right. Are we waiting for more people to join in, or can we kind of just
I
start?
think we can kind of just start. I don't mind.
All right.
In lieu of our coffee break, I wanted to make a poll whether people prefer to drink coffee or tea in the morning, and
Yeah.
we can talk about them.
Go ahead. What's your preferable drink, everybody? I'm gonna get my coffee in a moment.
Yeah, I think it's coffee the best, no? Good start. Yeah, I was here listening to all the conversation. Yeah. Good stuff. That sounds.
Let me introduce Paul, by the way. Paul has been is a really cool instructor and book author, by the way. He just released a book on Unreal about procedural content generation, so I'm giving him a plug. And he's a really cool person to hang around if you're trying to learn Unreal like I am, because he has a lot of knowledge about it. So he's interested also in virtual production, from what I've known, and virtual reality and some game development. But you can talk for yourself. But we've worked together on the fellowship at Epic, so we know.
Hey, look at me. Good other people. That's Armando. Looking at all. That's no, nice to meet you all. Appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me over, Bartosz. Yeah, so looking forward to see what you got to offer. Thank you for organizing it all together. So it's great pleasure to be here around. Sure. And thank you for the intro too. So yeah, I'm the new kid in the block, right? So there you go. It's good to see you all. Definitely.
Yeah, good. Thank you for joining as well.
No, of course. My pleasure too. Yeah, so it's fun. So I guess all of you are virtual production specialists as well, right?
I like that. Yes, I'm a specialist.
Yeah.
You're gonna take that. You're gonna take that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But better than consultant, right? It's best to be a specialist.
Everybody hates consultants, right? That's the gist I've gotten.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's something that even I think there was a time. I think there was a very old talk from Apple. I was at the time Steve Jobs saying that he doesn't understand the consultancy because it's the kind of thing that people not really take it very seriously. Consultancy, whereas specialist is more of like a preferable term to use. So it's
The same thing as what you're saying.
say again.
Wait, they do the same thing? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it's interesting because there's the times where I think that the early stages of virtual production Unreal, there are people hiring others, and they also start searching for like call it consultants, even though it was still too early for that. But I think mainly like the best way, I think what Victoria, you mentioned it before, like Bartosz before that, it's good to start off with Unreal as a generalist, I think. Um, because if you have like a background in anything when it comes to use of case of Unreal, it's
Yeah.
still beneficial to start off with visual production, to be honest. Because there was a time I remember, maybe most of you remember, that when visual production started to grow, there were lots of people from industry, but it just happened that Unreal Engine was always associated with games.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, and that's cool because like in a way there are people because you just have to sort of like always understand that there's this clash of different industries, right? But doesn't mean it's sometimes bad because it happens that game engine is not like was an easy tool to for the beginners, especially from VFX industry, step into. And I remember there was a time when visual production still at early stage of its phase, so they were like literally hire anyone who knows Unreal. It just happens, and then it was still like a sort of experimental for everyone to use this stuff for like more serious. And I remember like Unreal Engine used to break a lot at the early stages we talked about, right? So it's was fun, but things have changed now as well. So it's a bit more indie perspective, right? So it's people can use it for and yeah, so it's different.
And Unreal is making a lot of concentrated efforts into uh, catering to the virtual production industry, whereas before they might not have. So you would need a bit more extensive Unreal experience in order to make something work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true. And you mentioned about the sounds, which is interesting because surprisingly, me and my colleague actually we were working on something with sounds, but more like it just happened that we're doing for one of the like what's like a game. So it's so imagine you're creating a game, but for artists, right? So like musicians. So we did this game which was running on the pixel streaming through is it streaming for the pixel streaming. I don't know if you guys know technology pixel streaming. So you can actually upload it onto your website, then just stream it online. We're playing the game. And I remember we actually highly focused on the sounds for this. Virtual production is the different topic, but in general, like what I'm trying to say is that sometimes if you kind of come up with some very custom made tools and sounds, depending on the project, sometimes it's more of a thing than just relying on some tools that are already in Unreal. But I know that MetaSounds are still something worth exploring. Um,
Yeah, for
because,
sure.
yeah,
But that sounds like a cool concept.
yeah, it's
MetaSounds have been, by the way, brought into UEFN. If you're
oh, that's good.
the proper like node system and everything, so you don't get like just what Epic built, but the actual blueprint system from Unreal for MetaSounds in UEFN, so you can build up your audio experience for hundreds of players instead of trying to publish it on the App Store and trying to get people to download it. So it's an easier gateway to get into MetaSounds to UFN. So they actually are adding it, and it's public from what I've known. So it's interesting that it's hard to learn because MetaSounds are a very technical thing, right? Once you get it right.
Yeah, procedural.
Yeah, it takes time to figure out sometimes, but it's a interesting system to play with because it's like like excuse me, with a PCG or any editor, like even animation graph and so on. It's just its own system editor, but they'll build in. So when you get into MetaSounds, you can be creative about it, and then you have to figure out how you can work this out. So that's very cool. The feature to play with as well.
But that's so interesting that it's in UEFN. It almost sounds. I once had a lecture from an industry specialist who was telling us that he used to make art in PlayStation Dreams. So it almost like fits into the same category for you. Using this game or this even other platform to create.
right?
something
You can
new.
you can
That's
use
cool.
you can use all their systems, right? Instead of trying to build up a system in Unreal Engine, like a character, you know, or a stats system, or a race system, or whatever it is, right? Or pickup system. It's usually an Unreal, you know, you need a plugin or you need to build it up from the ground up. But in UEFN, you just plug it in and it works, and you got the game going. And it's amazing because I could build up a game in a weekend instead of 6 months in Unreal, right?
That's
And I'll show you examples because I'm actually publishing a game in 2 days made in UEFN. It's a first-person shooter, so there's, you know, sounds, but I want to make the most out of the first-person mode, and also MetaSounds that will come later, because all the Quake games and the shooter games are usually sound-based, right? There's a lot of things to do with sound and how sound is perceived in you know, because the character now is in first person, so the sense of sound is much different, right, than when you have the character in third person. So it changes a lot of things now, and it's all coming now. I think we're actually today is the 11th of December, by the way, this VPGUILD talk. So it's the premiere day of a lot of things happening in Fortnite and your Unreal Engine 5. Virtual production is also part of it when it comes to cinematics. It's a big part of it because that's how the whole trailer of or a concept of a game is pushed to their gamers, to the public, and that's where virtual production kind of sits still and has all the greatness of, you know, working collaboratively. Epic uses, you know, sequencer to create all of this magic, and this is part of virtual production that we'll also touch on in today's, you know, session in Aximmetry. And I hope to answer some of your questions when it comes to indie, right? Where, like you say, nobody has a big LED screen, but we can get a green screen, right? And I'm gonna focus on this and stuff like, if you have a printer around, by the way, at the coffee time, I can send this link to get this QR code. This is an Aruko code. And Aximmetry, I got 3 copies just so I won't lose them, because I lose all these all the time. And they are basically the 000 of our calibration system for a phone and Aximmetry Eye, and it helps immensely, this little thing in the virtual production set, because it will always snap everything back into place where if we're working with a virtual camera. And
like factory resets for the camera.
yeah, it's like a point of reset for the camera, and you can put all these around on the set, right? So every time a camera sees this, it will just be able to snap back. So if you have like a stationary camera that doesn't have tracking, right, it can actually pick up, hey, this is, if you're not moving this camera, it will actually snap through and align the Unreal scene correctly with even your virtual camera that's not tracked, but can see this this tracker on set. So you track it, then you remove, of course, or just cover up these trackers, but you're already calibrated, right? And that's how you can.
Yeah.
So I'll send the link. It's a Aruko tracker. It's on the Aximmetry Eye documentation to print out. Just make sure you print out 100% scale, and it works really well. You're going to be quite astonished how well these trackers work when it comes to aligning stuff. And it's an open source technology also, which is really pretty cool. And Aximmetry just uses it as a way to make it easier for us as creators, you know, working with this to align the camera to the set, right? Because that's usually a big part of calibration. Takes a lot of time, especially if you have a tracking system that's embedded into the camera. That's not an iPhone, then it becomes tricky a little bit, right? Because you have.
But the only tools you need is phone and then these little markers.
Correct.
I guess.
That's all the things you need physically, which is a phone, these trackers, and a PC to connect to, and then hardware, right? I'll touch on a little bit on hardware.
I can get it to you a little bit later.
Yeah. Hardware. I mean, hopefully somebody has something like this lying around. Highly recommend it. It's a Blackmagic A10 Mini. You can get them really cheap, and they come with 6 HDMI ports. The nice thing about this for to use with Aximmetry is that you can get away with licensing, in the sense that Aximmetry, if you go into the licensing, once you get deeper into the nitty gritty, you learn that it supports SDI capture cards and stuff like that, but you have to pay a premium for it and unlock it. But if you just go with the indie version, the basic version, you can connect any capture card, and this way you can get 4 inputs in one input, right? So you can just switch the inputs, and once you switch the input, you can calibrate Aximmetry to switch to a different camera view. So you can switch, you can do a whole bunch of things and get away with 4 camera signals in one signal. So that's for hardware. And other than that, the phone Aximmetry Eye is the best wireless device, right? Because the minus of this is you have to be cable connected, but for stationary cameras, perfect, right? You're not moving them, you just connect them and it's stable. When it comes to cameras, like movable cameras, like a tracked camera on the phone, then you want it to be wireless, because the cable will get in the way sooner or later on set. So yeah, those are just little tips that I'll probably be sharing, because it's things that I found out working with Aximmetry, that once you start throwing in more stuff, yeah, it gets kind of expensive, especially on the higher end, but it's for a reason too. And it's actually great that you can build up the whole system on the free version. And once your client arrives, or you're set up for production, you just unlock it for the time that you want to work. And the same files that you've been developing on your free version work in the full version. Just open up your project files, everything works, and you're ready to go. So that's the nice thing about it, that you can develop for free. And if you're ready to pay, and your production is ready, you just pay. You don't need to pay for working on something that you're not using, which is something that I appreciate. You don't need to pay monthly, right?
Yeah, no, that's good. Then you don't need to waste any budget.
Yes. Yeah. You can just develop. It's great for solo, small teams. Like I said, indie developers who want to learn how to use Unreal. And the nice thing also, like it's not mentioned in Aximmetry a lot, but working with Aximmetry is actually like working as a game developer, where, like Paul mentioned, this is a game engine. So you're cooking something, and that process of learning how to cook something that you want to use on virtual production will teach you a lot of things about Unreal that you kind of wouldn't take for granted, right? Because that's when things come out that you don't expect, that something like an error, that something you can't use, and then you kind of tone down the stuff that you throw into your project. And I'll show you my way of working, where I start with a simple template. Because if I open up a massive project and try to compile that, I will definitely run into problems and pulling out my hair, because something won't be working that I don't understand. But if I start migrating the way that I've learned to do it, which is step by step, that I migrate a section of the project, like a map, and then I migrate a system, and I go step by step, then I know what broke my compilation, right? And I don't kind of go, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. There's so many errors here. And that will be something that you'll have to learn and live with, because that's just the way this technology works. But once you kind of learn how to use it, then it will be for your benefit, because your projects will be well optimized. They won't take hundreds of gigabytes. You'll be able to compile in minutes instead of hours. And the quality coming out of your work will be the same, right? But you'll be taking minutes instead of hours. And that's on set or before set, when you're working with people. So crucial if your project is optimized, because people can load it up really fast, change something. And if your project is super heavy, gigabytes of data, massive 8K textures, I've seen projects like that run through the pipeline. Everybody is just stressed out then, because it just bogs down everything. So working with this kind of methodologically, with this mindset of keeping projects well optimized, using smart assets, HDRs, and stuff like optimized, and just being with the engine, I would say, not trying to overload it and trying to lean it into your way of working, but actually into the way the engine works, you'll have a much more pleasurable, experience with learning all of this. So yeah, I've done it. I've done everything the hard way, and I've done everything wrong in virtual production. That's why I can tell you exactly what not to do. And that's, I'll try to keep this topic around this talk around this, what not to do, because you'll take a lot information out of this, what to do if you learn what not to do and where you can break the rules later. Because then once you know, you can then break those rules and push something more, because Unreal is pretty forgiving if you know what you're doing. Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
It's just, I know it sounds easy, but it's easier said than done, as you say, because I know how long it takes sometimes even to just load up a simple asset. Yeah, and by the way, in this coffee time, I encourage you, if you would like to follow along through this workshop, log into aximmetry.com, create account, right? So basic website is aximmetry.com. Grab the app also on the phone if you'd like to test out how the pipeline will work. It's really good because you can use it also not only as a tracker, but just as a camera feed to Aximmetry. And it's the best camera feed you get because it's no low compression, there's no artifacts, it's actually made for keying, good for green screening. So yeah, grab Aximmetry, make an account, it's free. Once you log in, you'll need to oh yeah, these are my free keys, so no worries. You'll get your own key, and you'll be able to just click here and download the latest version, which is this little button, and this will download the version, this little installer. Make sure also that you install Aximmetry on the C drive. For some reason, whenever you decide to install it on a different drive, it will just cause problems. So just make sure you have enough space on C drive to install Unreal Engine for Aximmetry, because it will install actually two programs, which is, one is Unreal Engine for Aximmetry in version 5.4, and also Aximmetry Studio DE. So make sure you also get the version called Studio DE, not Studio SE. This is single edition for people who work just primarily with Aximmetry. They go with the single edition. They don't need Unreal. We're interested in the dual edition because we want to use Unreal to as our production set. So get the DE version. And as I said, all of this is kind of, if you need a SDI port, you need a super clean view, you can rent it. If you need an NDI port, which is streaming to the internet, and anybody can see the signal that you have on Aximmetry, then you get the NDI port, and so on. And probably the first thing you'll get once you get into production is a no watermark version, which is obvious. You don't want the watermark on your films. And the nice thing is, like I said, you can start with a $20 plan, kick off your production, learn the ins and outs. Once you're ready, decide on using this more extensively. So grab it. It takes a while to install. I have it already pre-installed, so you can just take this hour, if you'd like to this half an hour to pre-install it. Please go away. Don't need that feed. So once you install it, I'm gonna just open up Aximmetry to just keep it here. Open up. You should be able to open it with just type in Aximmetry Composer, and this will open up the project. I'll set up go through. This is, by the way, I'm recording this on my screen here on this screen, so you'll be able to see this later and preview it if you miss something, so no worries here. Once you open Aximmetry, you kind of get this startup configuration here, and this startup configuration is your I would call the lobby room of the person who's doing the whole virtual production, because he sees everything that's going on in the virtual production scene and is able to manage it from here and set up different monitors and everything. So from here, let me just switch here. Okay. And when you open up Aximmetry Composer, you get these because you can't see on my second monitor, I get like this number 2, number 1. So you can see here that it tells me that this number 2 is my second monitor and it's connected to this resolution, right? And this is really cool. It just tells me everything. I can sync up everything here or just leave it as is, and I'll keep it as is now, and I won't go into these indexes. These indexes will basically tell Aximmetry that this monitor is supposed to be used for this
Recording is on.
This output. Oh, okay. Alrighty. So going through the device mapper. Once you get through the outputs, the device mapper is where you set up Aximmetry Eye. So if I have Aximmetry Eye connected, I should be able to select here my iPhone, which is in this case the iPhone 15 Pro Max. But I'll have to turn off my streaming here from the video, but to connect to the Aximmetry so you're able to see how it works, right? And from here, camera tracking, I can also select different tracking devices. In this case, I have a Valve system here, a VR system connected. And I can also just add a tracker here and add all of these trackers here that are attached to devices, because as you can see here, they're numbered from 1 to 9, everything here, right? From 1 to 9. So every time I set up everything in 1, that's the input number 1. So iPhone will be an input number 1 that will be getting audio from this particular device. And it works in the way, as you can see, 1, 2, and 3. So you can set up to 9 inputs, right? 9 different cameras, 9 different setups, 9 different inputs that each have their different audio channels, different DMX inputs, different game controller inputs, right? You can map that this camera has a separate controller, right? That only works with this camera. And that's how you kind of understand it from 1 to 9. It's all attached into kind of one monitor, audio, signals, inputs, outputs, everything goes through this analogy of how it's set up. Okay, so you can also set up a keyboard here that if I like to control stuff like from my keyboard and stuff like that. That's it. That's for the setup. I'll just hit start, and this will open up Aximmetry, right? Once I have Aximmetry open, it opens pretty fast. Let me just set it up here so you'll be able to see my windows because it opened up here on my second screen. Normally, Aximmetry is a pretty boring program if you look at it, but it's the interface is pretty, I would say, you have to get used to it, right? But once you get used to it, you'll see why it's made this way and why it's actually really cool. So after you install Aximmetry, you start up with a blank project, right? You want to just get going, right? You want to understand, how do I cook a project, put it into Unreal Engine, and be able to talk to it through virtual production and Aximmetry. If you navigate to tutorials, oh, you're not seeing my screen. That's unfortunate. Let me shift.
This is strange. I cannot see it.
Let me try again. Reshare my screen.
I don't know. There wasn't an issue for me, but previously I wasn't able to, and I joined on Firefox, so I don't know how.
Okay. I'm using Google. Maybe that's why. Okay.
Can you see my screen now?
I don't see it.
No. I can see it. I've not had an issue, so.
Interesting.
Yeah. So am I as well going to Firefox? So
yeah, no problem. No problem.
Like,
I'm recording this anyway, so that's
yeah, but still good to see that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Please
rejoin in a second, so that should be okay.
Is everybody else seeing the screen?
Yeah, I think everybody else can see. Maybe
Okay.
both browsers. Just
Quick question: Is anybody following or planning to follow on with installing everything, or just would like to just watch? And because I'll pace it out for, if you're following, so you don't miss any steps. But if you're just watching, I'll skip on a few things to just get more material in.
I'm curious to see what the platform offers, because you say it has like a built-in mixer already.
Right.
So that might be interesting for me to check out. Really, I don't know how the others are doing.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I'm sort of trying to install it as we go, but I don't know how well or how quick, and I don't want to limit the content that we get to see. So I'm just going to go along with it, and if I get stuck, then I'll ask you a question or whatever. So just do your thing.
Perfecto. Okay.
Some people are saying that they're just watching for now.
That's cool. No problem. That's yeah, to be expected because there's a lot of pre-installed stuff that has to go into this, and you know, it installs Visual Studio, just a bunch of stuff that before before it works, it just it's one of the things why, let's say, Google or Facebook are such successful companies, because they are able to get somebody set up so quick with their ecosystem, while we small creators, have to ask people to install stuff. And anyway, let's go. Cool, Paul can see everything. All right, so moving on right along. Once you install Aximmetry, this is a fresh install. This is what you get out of the box once you install it. And let's get going, right? We want to get and open up a basic project. So in tutorials, there's this little folder here. If you install everything, it will create a project called Aximmetry Projects 2024, 3 tutorials Unreal. And let's select this basic comp. This is a really nice way to understand how this is set up from the basic perspective of just a blank project, right? That's not too complicated. And then later we'll move on to an actual use case of more of a use case, right? So right here, you can see my screen here on my preview. I have the production running. It's actually because it already was cooked, pre-cooked. And if you open up your Aximmetry, you'll probably see a black screen here because it hasn't been cooked. And I'll show you exactly how to get to this point, so you will be able to replicate this. So if you click here, this is the virtual camera basic node system that connects everything and just is able to pass out through all the signals. In Aximmetry, if you hold down Control, there's a nice little tip here that you can see and hover out what every little connection is actually spitting out, and you can see there the data, right? Is actually essentially. So you can, if I can see here, this is the node, right? This is just the video node that's just playing back this video footage into the test input, and this test input is being beamed out through the preview and into the out of this preview window, and this basic here is our actual Unreal project. This is where our Unreal project lives. So if we click this little button here, we can navigate to this folder where this project lives. So let me just open up this project. So I'll just open up and paste this folder in here, and I can just double click on this. So after you have installed into Aximmetry, Unreal Engine for Aximmetry, you'll be able to select the 5.44 version here and open up this up. And that's the main thing you have to take care of. Make sure you don't open up an Aximmetry project in your normal editor or vice versa, because you might break some things. So just make sure you keep the version the same. So you can see here, this is the simple set that's built. It's as simple as it gets. It can't be even more simpler, right? There's just a wall, floor, and a camera setup. And this camera is pre-installed from the package. But if you need to install the camera into your scene, there's this little new button here called Aximmetry, and you can just add one of all these complicated setups here that we'll kind of go over briefly. But I'll talk about mainly the virtual one and the tracked one. Later, maybe if we have enough time, or in other sessions, we can go through all of these later that are more complex. But they give you a sense of what's possible. So you can play with an LED screen, right? If you want a LED wall, this is where you go. If you want a green plus AI tracked camera, then you go with this one. But we'll go with the basic virtual one just to keep it simple. If I click this, it will just ask you, hey, you have this green camera already here. It's in version 75. Would you like to replace it and destroy it? It's the same version. I don't need to do that. So I'll just click no, because I know that this already works, right? But before you can actually run this project like I'm running here in Aximmetry, you need to quickly cook this project out. So in order to cook out the project, there's 2 things you need to know. One is in project settings, it will always default to the map that you have set up in your default map, which is the map, right? The editor startup map and game default map, because you're actually building a game. So you need to tell Unreal, hey, this is the first map you want to load, right? And Aximmetry will load up this map. So this map is this map. It's cool. That's set up, but you can always change this to a different level if you'd like to open up a different level. And once you have that set up, all you need to do is go to Aximmetry and just literally click cook content for Aximmetry. And that will start cooking the project. If I click this, it will disable Aximmetry automatically, right? So Aximmetry is saying, waiting for the Unreal editor to finish up to cook the project. So it actually talks to each other, which is nice. And if I click here, the log, which is you usually spend some time here, this project has already been cooked, so it went really fast. Iterative cooking. The first time you do this cake takes about 15 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on how fast your PC is. But once you do it and do it iteratively, it goes really fast, because you just add one asset or add a new map. You can just add stuff to this. So once you're back in, let's jump into back Aximmetry. And from here, we have our virtual production stage. So you may ask, hey, how do I move around here? How do I do anything? Well, there's a couple of ways to do this. Right now, we're in the flow menu, right? Which is the basic setup menu where you get everything going, get everything set up. If we click on the cameras menu, you'll get to this little menu here system that has a camera 1, camera 2, camera 3 setup, camera path, camera render setup, and also the edit camera path. That's what we want to do. We want to edit this camera path, right? So if we click this little button here, we'll go into this kind of free mode that's familiar from Unreal, where if I hold the right mouse button, I can zoom in, zoom out. I can look around, right? I can hold the middle mouse button and scroll around, and just the general, looking around of the camera. So let's say I want to set up this camera on a wider shot like here, right? That's cool. All right. So if I click here, hey, it jumped back to my camera, and it's, where's my edit? I can't move it. Well, if you click back on the mouse, it snaps back to where we left it. Now, I want to put this shot in, right? I want this shot to be, I don't want this shot. I want this shot, right? And I don't want this free mode here. How do I do that? You need to copy the position and paste it into the camera. So the whole process to getting a shot, basic first shot, is you copy the position, which is this little button here, which means, which is copying the position here of this camera, and then you can paste it in. But every camera has an A and B path. So if I hit A, this is my point where I start my camera, and B is the keyframe where I want my camera to end. So it's a very simple setup. It's A and B. So I'm setting up A, right? And copying this position, and clicking on B and pasting this position in. And now, as you can see, if I click back into this camera, it should work. No, it's not working. It actually snapped back into this camera. So let's try again. Actually, I made a mistake. You don't go into because this is just like looking around, this free camera. But I actually need to be in the camera mode. I know this is a bit confusing. I'm going to zoom in here. You have to be in the camera mode, then switch the edit camera path. Now you can set where your camera wants to be on point A, right? So this will be kind of a quick tutorial, right? So my B point is where I left it, and my A point now is where I started, right? So I have, if I hit play, you can see what Aximmetry is actually doing now. It's doing as I would set up the camera on the rail system, with an A and B point coming in and out, in and out. And that's usually the main thing that people want on virtual production, which is a slow camera, at least when it comes to a lot of like live broadcasting and stuff, where it happens like with presenters and stuff. It's usually a camera that's moving really slow, or doing this kind of, so small pan, small view. So let's say I want to change this. All right, I grab this position of this camera, point A, and click on my point B, and I paste the same position in, and now my camera is stationary. It's not moving. But hey, I want to say, the director says, can you make a little pan, like, can you put the rail system so it moves from left to right? And you go, yeah, sure. You just move this camera from point A to B, you hit play, and we have a completely different camera. So that's how you kind of work with camera. And you can see here where it can be built into a whole system, where I've just built camera path 1. But hey, what if I want to set up a second camera view, right? Something else. I could do that. I hit on camera 2, hit on point A, and now I'm going to hold Alt. And Alt does this kind of, where it pans around this object. But Aximmetry does the hard work for us because it always is aligning this billboard, this flat plane, to always look at the camera, which is a way to cheat in virtual production. If you don't break the angles more than a couple of degrees, you can get away with this. So let's say I want to do a little bit of a view that I go into this shot. So I'm going to go start here, copy this position, go into B, paste this position in, and just hold Alt and just move the camera a little bit like this. And now I have a little kind of pan going, left to right and stuff. And now if I want to, let's say, have a smooth cut between this, I don't want to cut like with a hard cut, like you can see, which is cut. You can select this little, I would say, easing in thing that just basically does this, that whenever we switch to a different camera, it interpolates that and figures out, hey, this is where the camera was, and we can quickly create a dynamic, 2-camera shoot just with this setup. And also with using this, like I mentioned, this Aximmetry, a capture card, we can replace this, our guy that's happening right here with basically a live feed, right? Because anything here can be inserted as a module. So you would right click, insert module. This little window pops up, which is kind of a search bar with all the nodes. There's a lot of nodes, but you can go any node you like and select one that you're interested, which is a video input. And it's basically being configured here, and you can select everything and plug this into a output, right? Right now, I'm not going to set up because I'm streaming, but if we go into Aximmetry Eye, I'll show you how to get Aximmetry Eye to be sending the signal instead of this template, right? Also, I want to show you how it's easy to actually play with this and get the billboard set up, because everything here, just out of a quick recap, I know this is a crash course, but just add a quick recap of inputs. All of this is happening on input 1, right? So this is my test footage that's completely running, so I can always have a preview, and I can change the monitor view, have a look at how it's being cropped, keyed. And by the way, the keyer in Aximmetry is top industry. I would say it's one of the best keyers, real-time keyers you can get, period. If you're looking for a real-time keyer, it's the way to go, right? They have amazing, it's so forgiving, right? I've had really bad green screens, and just with these couple of levers, you can set up this. So you basically turn it on, and you're able to, with the low cut and high cut, essentially cut out that green screen really, really easily. And then you can essentially use a bunch of filters that I don't really recommend, because the less filters you use, that means that your light technician and the people on set did a better job, right? So the less you have to do here, that means they did a better job. The more you have to do here, that means they have to work on their job. It's weird, but it's the way it is. Yeah, you have to have a good light technician and people who know how to work with light, if you're working with green screens, essentially, to get this going, right? So just a quick tip, make sure you have your lights set up right when it comes to green screen. There's a lot of topics about how to get a good green screen set up. Essentially, what you're looking for is to light everything as flat as possible, and then shoot it, right? Because that will provide you the best alpha channel. If you do a lot of editing and try to, let's say, light this subject with light, you will find out that you will be changing the color of your green screen, affecting the chroma key. So essentially, my recommendation for starting off is to do everything as a flat lighting system. So white, right? Normal. Let the engine do all the compositing, and then later, throw it into compositing if you want to make it more beautiful. But from my experience, trying to light everything so it works on set is really complicated, unless you're working with an LED screen, which is expensive, right? So yeah. Anyway, let's move to something more, let's say, real world example, right? And also I want to mention like the audio example, and see how that can be worked out with audio, because I'm not sure if I can pipe through here an audio example, but the whole mixer is also a setup that you can just set up. So let's have a look of a real world example of how let's say I would like to create this as a Apple scene, like, because I've always said that and believe that these virtual sets are valuable when they show something or are in the background that's really expensive to build in real life. What I mean by that is, let's say you're probably familiar with how Apple does their shows, with their events. They actually probably use Aximmetry or a mix with Unreal Engine to do all these crazy transitions where they fly through their offices and stuff. They're probably using a mix of these technologies. But let's have a look on how to make something more beautiful, more interesting, right? So this is a simple project. I like to keep this as my ground truth of something that works and compiles and just kind of works, right? And from my virtual production kind of world, there's I don't know if you've heard of, there's this person called Richard, who was an early adopter of virtual production, and he launched axicomps.com, which is a marketplace that sells nodes that people set up in Aximmetry. So there's already he's building up a marketplace for people who are able to build up a node system, a virtual production system that's useful for other people. So a classic example is, hey, I made a classic D-spill that works with translucent clothing, right? It's a hard thing to do. So you can just grab this node system, have a look how it is. They actually share this one for free, and have a great dispiller. And it's similar to this, where if you build up a great billboard dissolve template, where somebody appears in a very creative way into the mixing comp, right? You can sell this for a couple of dollars, because probably somebody else will also need this kind of way to work. And there's a bunch of things. I like this one, Axi Prompter, really cool. You essentially get a prompter that is great for your actors that you can beam into Aximmetry. And essentially, once you're having control over your prompter in Aximmetry, you can trigger it on the button that whenever you play an animation, that will also trigger the prompter to be running the script that the actor needs to read. I think that's amazing, right? That's like a shortcut for indie production, because there's a big need for this. That some actors are not that great, and they like to work with essentially bullet points, or you can map out actions or time things that's supposed to happen on a specific time, and they can work with the camera rather than looking at the screen, because the prompter is a hack, if you think about it, for virtual production, especially indie virtual production, where instead of using the prompter, right, the text here, you could actually beam the signal that's coming out of Aximmetry. So the actor working with the camera sees his performance, composite, everything happening in real time. So that's just a big, kind of indie virtual production tip that I've seen some people work with, and they even scale it, right? Because this is a really small prompter made out of an iPad, but I've seen people build from gaming monitors, massive. Just you put a gaming monitor, then you build up the system to just have a reflecting light, and then you get a massive kind of virtual production camera that's actually showing you what you're seeing. It's very useful on virtual production. Trust me, I've seen it. I've seen these systems on expensive shoots, and they barely worked sometimes, or they sometimes had to work usually where the virtual production was on a monitor. So you'd have actors kind of glancing to the left, having a look what they see, and then performing, rather than focusing on the performance, looking into the barrel of the camera, rather than, seeing it's a tough challenge for green screen in general, that actors don't know what they're doing because they have to imagine it. So if you put it in front of their eyes, in front of the camera, it does help a lot. So just to say that, right? So Axicomps, that's one thing. There's also a bunch of template projects that you can grab on Aximmetry. If you are not willing or don't have the time to build a full set, you can just buy it, right? Or sell it, or if you like to build these things. And I found these just websites that just, if you Google, you can have a good inspiration of what people are looking for, what people buy. These are by no recommendation. These are beautiful sets, but they show how virtual production is used generally in the industry, as you can see, with themed elements, with branding elements, and in general, this projects, because you can grab these virtual sets. They're free. Let's grab one of these. I'm gonna grab one because I know that they actually sell these because they are from an earlier version from Unreal Engine. And that's a problem because if you grab a version earlier, you have to convert stuff. But the nice thing about Unreal Engine is that you can get away with it and convert stuff. So let's do that. It's actually grabbed. So I have a nice set here that I grabbed here. Let me just open up this project in Aximmetry and also in Unreal. So you'll see how this works in a more real case scenario rather than my template, right? Because template is a template. It's a great starter point, but it doesn't get you anywhere. I like to show a template and then something that kind of shows you where this is actually kind of used and sold and where the business is around it, right? So very simple set. If you think about it, to build in 3D, took probably for a good, modeler, this could be about, I don't know, like maybe 1 hour of work, maybe less, depending on how good your modeling skills are. This is nothing too complicated. It's just a sphere and 2 boxes and just added textures. But it gives you a sense of how expensive would be to build something like this. This would cost hundreds. I don't know how much, but it would cost a lot of money and a lot of man hours, human hours, to get this working. And here we just have it, right? And we can start lighting it, building it upon it, mixing upon it, and changing how it looks. But let me just jump into the blueprints here. Open level blueprint. See if there's any blueprints here. No, there's no blueprints here happening in the level blueprint. So there's nothing here happening that's, custom. But let's have a look here at the second map that's also provided here. And this is where we kind of get into more of the LED stages, where these textures here are kind of slides that tell Aximmetry, which is Aximmetry Matte TV screen here, that this is a place where you can show any kind of video input and basically show it on screen, right? And you can build up your scenes like this. So let's have a look here in the open level blueprint. You can see here how there is some documentation sometimes, and it shows you how these scenes are built up, which is some kind of color matte here on the begin play. There's a sequence. I don't know why he added that many sequences. And this is where the group TV, let's say, scene. So there's a dynamic material instance created, right? And there's also get Aximmetry video, which is a special node provided by Aximmetry. So it just grabs the Aximmetry video and sets it the texture parameter video. You input the name of it, you set the material, then you grab it from the persistent level, and it's basically a template for getting a screen to display stuff. And there's also a node for getting the screen to move, because in Aximmetry you can set up basic inputs, trigger systems that would make that would trigger an animation that would come in or out. And you can either design these in 2 worlds. You can do it in Aximmetry or sequencer in Unreal. I prefer personally Sequencer. I think this project, this free project in particular, is set up to use Aximmetry. So I'm just going to open up now the Aximmetry project, so you'll see how this is built from the ground up in Aximmetry, right? So let's just open up our Aximmetry project. So we'll close this one, right? We're not going to use this one, this template, but it's a great starting point. And just grab this guy, and we're just going to drag and drop this axi-comp file into our comp here. So this is usually what happens in Aximmetry. You get a bunch of errors, the project isn't cooked, C-log, oh my god, what's going on, right? But that's usually the case where you open up a project that's free or built in an earlier version. You can see here how it's built up, right? There's the Talent green screen happening here, also beamed into the output, and then the Apple, which is the project here, is set up here, and there's also these 3 nodes here, which are set up to make the screen move, control the screen, and control the screen output. But I have problems here. I don't have any inputs and stuff. I want to get this going so I can get a Aximmetry Eye signal into this, into a real world project, and maybe change so it actually works, right? So let's have a look. So I tried to build this project like it is, right? But I ran into a classic error that you will probably find that too. It just didn't compile, right? And why that happened, I have no idea. But I started looking into it and I was a little bit confused. So I'm going to try my approach that I recommend you also practice or just learn upon, so you don't get into the compilation hell of working with these projects, because once you throw in stuff that has code or very custom plugins or something that's very working, that only works in the editor, that's where you will run into problems for compilation. So just be aware of that. And my personal recommendation is to just migrate stuff into a working project, and then if you do it that way, then you kind of have control over it, rather than opening up a project and not knowing what's the compilation error is throwing at you. So let's try this one for first. Just this nice black sur, nice level. Let's try to migrate this. So I would right click on this project and just go Asset Actions and Migrate. Migration is a pretty straightforward process. If you work with Unreal, you can essentially migrate any asset into any project. I don't want to move the camera because I already have the camera there set up in my project. I just need everything else that comes with this level. So I'll just deselect this camera and hit OK. Unreal will ask me, hey, where's your project? So I'll just go quickly to my project. I usually keep 2 projects open. There's no issues of there's no problem with having not too big projects open in Unreal. It's actually useful. So let me just go here into Basic and find the content folder, which is where we should migrate our stuff. So I'll just grab that on my Control-C and paste it in here and just go Select Folder. All right, and I think if we go back to our project, now we should have, if we select here to have levels, our map that we just, which is the Apple map, has appeared here. So let's try to open up in our project now. Remember that was a 4.26 project in Unreal. So I actually took a very old project and I'm trying to build it up in Unreal 5.4 right now. Take into account also that Aximmetry always usually updates one version behind, and that's for a reason. They need to battle test this for a lot of things on virtual production stages that don't make a crash, so they usually lag one version behind the official version of Unreal. It's a good thing. It's also a bad thing because you don't get the latest features, but the good thing is that you usually end up with a more stable product because you get more updates coming from there. All right, so we have our project here. Let's set up our default map in project settings. So we're changing our map to path AUP. And now we need to compile it. So let's go Aximmetry and cook content. And this is cooking. And I'm going to take this shouldn't take too long, because I specifically took a project that, because if I tried to cook now like the city sample project, which would be fun, to fly around the camera throughout a whole city, which I have done, but it just takes a couple of hours to do it, even on a beefy computer, because yeah, it's already done. Perfect. And let's go back into Aximmetry, and now let's switch because it's trying to use still this old project, right? And we can, in Aximmetry, we can say, hey, I want to switch this, right? Although I won't have these scenes here, this setup, let's see if I can just switch this project and it will auto connect to everything. So I'm just going to go here, select my folder where I have my project. And I need to select always the U project file, which is the Unreal Engine project file. So I'm selecting the Unreal basic project file. So I'm switching up the node. And then you can see, hey, our production is working. And it even compiled. So if I go here and pull out this preview button here, let me just pull out this window. Can you let me know? Thank you. You can see that our production is working, right? It all worked magically. And we have a new map, which is nice, right? We have something to work with, and we can now iterate on this and start adding more stuff to this, or add a, let me just unscrew that here. All right. There's also this little button here. Let me just show you. There's also a live link mode, which is very useful in Aximmetry. So I'm just going to click this. This will sync everything up. But say I want to edit live on my virtual production sets, right? Like I'm actually running this. Let's say this is production and this is happening live, right? But I need it to, and the director says, hey, I need to change something here, and you can't afford to recompile and rebuild the whole project because it will take too long, right? And that's usually the case. What you can do is, let me just make some organization here. What you can do is, which is, I also want to show this because this is a really cool feature of Aximmetry that is actually really useful. So let me just set this up here like this. And if I go back into Unreal, let me just close the projects that I'm not using. So I'm not using this one because I've migrated from this one. So I'll just close it off. And is this one yeah, I think I opened it double. So let's just close this one. Okay, so this is our project that we're working in. So now if I just move this to the left here, so I have my project here working, there's a connection mode called live sync. If I go into live sync mode, it will ask me, hey, can you press play in the editor? And if I hit play in the editor, I get a connection between both now, right? They are talking to each other, and whatever I do now in Aximmetry, right? If I go here, let me just, because I'm need to get my camera controls here back. There, boop. If I'm moving in Aximmetry now, you can see this is happening live, and this is looking really well. Like I remember in version 4, 5.2, 5.3-ish, I think, even pre, this usually looked like crap here on the left, because it's just like it didn't have all the nice pixel streaming technology. I don't know what they're using on the back end, but if you look on the back end, there's a whole bunch of researchers doing a bunch of things that make this, workable. So there's also, we'll go into like cleaning this up, but I don't want to overextend on time, because I really want to show Aximmetry Eye, because that's what we came here for. But this is the basics of getting it set up for a map. And I just also want to show you the billboard setup, because I can see here that if he's a little bit here cropped. So you can control here stuff like cropping. Let me just get from the bottom. See, his foot is a little bit cropped, so I can do this in real time. And I can also set him up where I want him to change the location, right? Just change generally where he is, right? With the billboard system. There's the transformations here system where you can actually hold and just set up where this billboard is supposed to live in the world in the XYZ coordinates. So you can, let's say I want him here, right? Maybe with the position, something like that. So you can decide all of this later while you're doing this on set, and it happens in real time. Also, just the scale is a bit too. So it's usually the fact of matching him with the scale. I know art directors are very picky about this stuff. I've had them like, hey, can you move him like 4 millimeters this way? Oh, yeah, it's pretty funny, right? So once you start working with an art director, he'll give you a lot of tips of how to set this up. But when working with you as a technician in Unreal, and he says, hey, can you change how this video signal is being beamed here? He's too bright, right? Well, you can do that, right? You can just go with the adjuster and start doing this in real time rather than trying to figure out how to do it in Unreal, which you can also do, but there's just so many possibilities here to control the video signal coming in with all the node system here that happens, right? And everything that happens further after that. Oh, one thing, audio mixer, because it was mentioned that how to work with audio in general. There's a whole kind of audio part of this, which touches upon DMX, but generally audio. There's a bunch of filters here that you can essentially, as I say, these come from the world of audio mixing. And you can, if you know what you're doing, you can do a lot of things here and just build up your own node system where the audio is mixed in or out through the system, and you can pull different sources in, like an audio mixer, right? Audio in, audio out. If audio, you can copy audio, you can sequence audio. I would have to go into the documentation of this, but there's a whole bunch of things where I can go, let's say I want an audio, I think it's a peaker. And I remember that you could set up, you could see all the inputs and outputs coming out on your preview system, which I just don't remember from the top of my head from the overlay. Maybe it's in the overlay system. So logos, no. Inserts, no. Okay, that's the logo. Okay, this is the green screen, virtual screens. So this is probably for the second map, which has the virtual screen, and you already have a node system where you can just, hey, I want to play back this media. I want to play back. You can just select what video file you'd like to play back in the background. It's already set up, right? But we don't have a virtual texture here. I would have to build up this the second map. I'm going to take a small brief now. Pause. Take a breather. And how's everybody doing?
Still here, still good. Thank you for showcasing that little bit of the audio mixer. I will definitely have to look into that because it's really interesting.
Yeah,
I was also really
cool.
to find out you can create a video just on your, like, without anything. Like, you don't even need to be in a studio. You just program your virtual camera movements, your virtual environment. Everything is really fun.
Mm-hmm. I can show you how to bring a camera animation into here, which is actually very useful, where you just record something using the, I actually recommend the Omniscient app, Omniscient, but you can do the same in Aximmetry Eye in real, let's say that this is the app that I recommend, Omniscient. Let me just get it, Omniscient. It's got a weird name. There we go. So this guy, I've talked about it a few times. It does LiDAR scanning, camera tracking, exports all these formats, talks with everything. You get a video feed and a camera track all in the same go. So you essentially use this on set to record whatever you're working on, right? To just capture it. And then once you're done with that, you you essentially load up the FBX file into Aximmetry, because you can pull into here like actual FBX files of the camera motion into, so you import it into Unreal, and then once you hit an Aximmetry, you just say, hey, play back this. You set up a button. Once you play it back, it will just play back this whole animation already with the video, and you can just use the compositing power of Aximmetry, right? With the camera tracker already there and everything set up,
Yeah.
already synced up. It's a whole thing, right? If you're working not in real time, it's perfect. If you're working in real time, you can use Aximmetry Eye, which is also good because you can record your motion. That will also record the camera motion into an FBX file, and you can. It's kind of the same, but it's just a different app, right? But you can work all in all of this in the same app, right?
It's very versatile for sure. I think I accidentally cut someone off earlier. Whoever it is, please.
No, I just said I'm here, still here. That was all. So no worries, you didn't cut me off.
Okay.
I think we're ready to jump into Aximmetry Eye then.
Alrighty. So let's have a look at Aximmetry Eye then. So I'm going to try to maybe keep with this project going, and I'm going to rebuild it into an Aximmetry Eye project, so we'll be able to get some camera tracking here, right? That'll be fun. So let's try to do that. All right. So what's the first step? The first step is to get Aximmetry Eye signal instead of this guy, right? I'd say that's the first step. I want to see my camera view coming into here instead of this guy, right? So let's do that. I'm going to turn off my camera view here because I'm using my phone, so you see me here. So you'll be able to, so I'll be able to use the phone to actually communicate through Aximmetry Eye. So let me just switch this off for now for a second. Camera, okay. And I'm going to share my iPhone screen. This will be much better. Mm-hmm. This one now. Okay. 1830. So have you maybe used, has anybody used Aximmetry Eye yet or not yet?
No, I apologize. Yeah, me neither.
Okay, cool. Okay. Alrighty. Can you see my screen? Cool. You can see my screen and my phone. So in order to set up Aximmetry Eye, right, you need to set up, let me just go back here. Let me save all this. Save, right? Oh, it's complaining that it doesn't want to save on the basic file. So I'll just save this, save as a copy, and just call it the on the documents basic. So Aximmetry is being picky, that doesn't want you to overwrite their template file. All right, don't save. So now it's disconnected. All right, so it's actually figuring out that, but I want to go back into the setup. So in order to get this set up, you need to have a IP address. Your IP address of your PC you can find typing start cmd and then just typing ipconfig. And then this IP here, usually IPv4 address, is the one that you need to input into your phone. So your phone knows where your computer is. You need to input your IP address of your computer. And that way he'll be able, the app should be able to find the signal. So I'm going to set up that on device 1, I have iPhone 15 tracking, right? So let me just go refresh, I think. Oh, it has to actually start. So it won't find the network unless I start Aximmetry. So I'm just going to hit now start. And after connecting, I see this little window. Cool. All right. So now let's just open our project back up. Close these previews for now. All right. So right now we're only sending the camera stream, as you can see. So I'll start with the camera stream and then we'll go to the camera tracking data and see how that goes. So we'll go with start. So you can see that my screen is streaming here. Oh, it will look cool because I'll try to use the green screen here from here. Okay, I'll just set this bone up for now, like here. Okay. So I have that streaming. So let's get that input. So I would grab that video input from here. I can set it up here in either the billboards here in the setup. So if I go into input here, you can see that it's mapped to 1, right? So I think if I hit test, right, it's now showing me no input.
Recording is on.
So let's go back here and just change this input device to be that iPhone 15. And now if I hit test, let me just go. Let's go through here. Let's have a look here. I'm not sure why it's not detecting here. So I added the video input, right? Note, and just let's have it here. If I hit control, do I see this input? It should detect it. Oh, I think I know. I need to hit record. Okay, so you need to actually hit record on the phone. It has to have that means it's now sending data, right? Yes, it's sending the data. So if I hit control now, you can see that, hey, this is the output coming from my Aximmetry Eye into the system, right? So now I can, instead of, let's say Karim node, let's just disconnect this guy. And now we can beam this output into the test input, right? And now if I go into cameras, actually billboards, I need to make some adjustments. Let's get this camera so I can see what's going on here in the scene. So right now you can see I'm on the side. Let me choose, can I just switch this camera here? Orientation lock off. Okay, interesting. So it's locking out because I know why. Let me just lock off here because I think it's set up in the cropper. So let's go back to our cropping in the billboards. Go to crop. Let me move this here. So portrait. I'll switch off portrait mode and that will put me on the ground, let's say. And yeah, if I had a green screen here happening, you would probably see the whole magic happen. Let me just, I'll do it for now like this quickly. So this is my quick green screen. You can see that it's actually happening and it should be working, right? So if I had a proper like ground and stuff, it would be keying out this green screen properly. And now I want to do the tracking point. So I have the signal, right? Signal is great. I want tracking, right? All right. So let's get our tracking point, the Aruko point. All right. I'm gonna just put it on the ground right now for now, here. And before I do tracking now. So let me just switch off the camera feed for now here, coming from the device. Oh, and actually it's telling me, hey, please watch out, you're going to device overheat. Once I turn on tracking, then, like I say, highly recommend get one of these gaming, I don't know how do you call them, coolers, from Amazon or from like whatever. They basically cool your phone once you play games, for gamers. And it works really well for this tech if you're using an iPhone on set, because it will definitely overheat. One way to combat this is to not use the Wi-Fi network on the phone, but actually use a dongle. So the Wi-Fi signal doesn't have to work so much, and it actually keeps the phone cooler if you're not using Wi-Fi. And that's also a way to get away with more production, so you don't overheat your phone. So try not to use the Wi-Fi, try to get it on a cable, but that kind of defies the purpose of a phone, of a camera without a phone, without a cable, right? Because you have the cable, right, on the tracked phone. But if you can, that's usually if you're shooting longer shots, you need it to work longer, then I would highly recommend go with the cable. If you're doing a quick shoot, right, to 10-15 minutes, you're fine with cooling it with just this and going Wi-Fi. Just remember, if you're going Wi-Fi, get a cooler, because it will cap out at 30 FPS and everybody will see how not precise the system is, right? I've had it on set. All right, let's get this connected. So I have my Aximmetry Eye. Let's go back here into the settings, hit disconnect. And I think I need to hit connect again. And now I want the system to also send tracking data. And you can also receive a stream, which will add even more work for the phone. But essentially what it gives you is that the phone is showing what the composite is showing, which is really cool, because you have your phone and the camera operator sees what's happening in the virtual productions. It's really good. But then make sure you're cooling your phone. So I'm trying. Let's try it. Let's see if it will work. The preview data. So I'm just going to go quickly for reference. Aximmetry Eye. Just so we have a quick reference of what we're doing here in the documentation. I always reference the documentation, especially in Aximmetry. They have it nicely put up here. So after opening Eye, let's see the camera view. We've went through this. Open up the setting. You can choose to set up a SRT stream. Log in application, and remember to log into the application. It also won't work if you don't log into it. So log into it with your same username that you've downloaded Aximmetry. Also had that. So connecting to Aximmetry, yeah, like they say, they recommend these dongles. This is probably the best way to keep your phone cool, is to use an Ethernet dongle and not charge it, right? It's also interesting. If you charge your phone, it will overheat faster if you just not charge it and just work with the battery. If you can fit with in that time schedule of just the battery, usually 1 or 2 hours, right? All right, that's just finding the IP. We went through that. Aximmetry Eye. Okay, so here's the setup that I needed to touch upon. So the following devices will be created if they're selected. SRT input, right? Camera tracking, and the SRT output for the preview, right? So I'm going to go back into my setup here. Do I need the HTTP control? Let me just have a look here. Edit. Preferences. Actually, this version of the free version doesn't need that, because this is only for the when you're using tracking delays and stuff. Okay, that's fine. Slide to unlock. Okay, so we're already here. We just need to get the SRT input and all, so the tracking data comes in. So let's go back into our main manageable devices. So manage devices. We have an SRT listener here set up, which is fine. And camera tracking. Let me just have a look here. Did they say anything about tracking device? Aximmetry Eye. Okay. So if I have this set up, let me just hit start. Okay. And now going back to camera tracking, there should be not Axibridge. I know this is a little bit tricky with their version. Manual tracking, no. It should automatically detect it. Oh, let me hit record. Maybe I need to. Okay, now it's tracking. Okay. And hopefully now I'll be able to select this as a tracking device. So let's go back here. Go into our flow. So we have our input device. Okay. Let's try this. Let's delete this input device. Go back to the billboards. Let's get our test here. Let me do a quick.
There's a section covering comments. Does the Aximmetry have a cam? I was saying that there's a suggestion from the comments that says, or not a suggestion, rather a comment, whether Aximmetry has a tracked camera comp.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, whoever wrote that comment. Thank you. That's why I'm also struggling here a little bit, because I forgot about the main thing. I actually talked about it, that you need to change this because we're using the simple Aximmetry virtual camera. Thank you for that comment. So add camera, and we're going to just change this to tracked, right? And it will replace it, right? Okay. So let me just, for now, put that into play mode. I'll cook it again now. And now I'm going to get different setups. Yes, that was a good tip. Yeah, because I was missing the setup for getting the tracking data into it, right? So now it should be able to compile. I actually find it quite useful showing things that don't work than showing a thing that, like, this doesn't work because this hasn't been done, and that's a good learning experience, right? Rather than just showing this is the correct way. So yeah. All right, let's do.
We're rubber ducking together.
Okay. And now let's reload this into the managed devices. Let me just turn on backtracking. Okay. And go to our recent projects. Oh, it's actually loaded already here. Okay. Back into here. We'll just hit play. Okay. Now let's have a look what's going on here. Do we have input? No input. Let's have a look here at this input trigger. Oh, let's send the data first. Camera tracking. Can't connect to previous stream. All right. And I'll give a quick restart to Aximmetry also, just to make it sure that it's getting a fresh start. It usually worked really well where it detected the camera automatically. Let's see if it's try again. So I'll do that. I'll be streaming the camera already. once Aximmetry opens up. Okay. Okay. Device mapper. So this is fine. Camera tracking. Just go here. Video out. Let me just go reference the documentation one more time, because this is the most tricky part out of this, is that connecting the phone. Aximmetry Eye documentation. There you go. Connecting Aximmetry Eye asks permission to search. Okay, that's fine. Enter the IP address. You select, but it's not showing up unless I run it. Okay. So this is what they want to use. The following device will be if they're selected. All right. So let's just go right back here. Going to cancel. Okay. Devices. Hit start. Hit connect again. Now go to manage devices. That's fine. And oh wait, let me just check out the video output also. Okay. Hit record, so it's actually tracking. And open up this project. Sorry for these technical issues. It's always part of this. It's a pretty interesting setup to stream this, but I'm trying my best to get it working. Okay, let's reconnect this camera. Now I know what's going on. So I'm using, see, this is also a learning experience. So I'm using the virtual camera here, 3Comp, and I've actually changed my camera comp. So let me just switch here back into this. And now let's select a virtual camera, tracked camera Unreal, because this is virtual camera Unreal, right? That was our setup. And go back here into the tracked camera and hit open. And this should be able to reconnect, change this node system into one that understands a tracked camera rather than a stationary camera, because that was all for stationary camera, right? That's why I think I was running into some kind of technical issues also. So now, let's hit record. All right. Now we have the camera input, output. All right. And let's go into inputs. So now let's go back into the input one. And now we have a bunch of more things that are set up here that weren't here before. Let me just set up here. That were missing before, which was the camera device, the tracking device, right? And this is what we were missing, which was Aximmetry Eye operating on this port. So let's just force it to be here, right? And now we'll change also the phone home to be here. That I think it should work, right? It's as an input, okay? Keyed and studio. Okay, this is what we need. All right, we're getting somewhere, getting into business. So now I have a studio. You can see that it's actually figuring out, and I need to track this point, right, which is my 000 point. And from here, there's this little button here in studio. There is this little button here in scene. No, back in studio. Stand tracker, mark feed, markers visible. Let me just go back here. I think it was somewhere. Let me just go back here to the Aximmetry documentation because I'm probably missing that little button here. Okay, we have that. We have tracking. We have all this. That's fine. Preview. Okay, detecting the origin. So make sure, oh, by the way, if you're printing one of these systems, I've also mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned this, make sure you use the 6x6, which is here. Oh, so if you go here and generate your own code, so make sure you use 6x6 and make the marker size at least 180 millimeters. It won't work otherwise. I've had it not work. So that's one thing. Okay, just to reiterate. And the other is in the inputs control. Okay, so there's a detect origin in the origin 1 button. So let's go back here. Now then scene, but actually, where's that? Origin? Origin 1. Okay, origin, here we go. Let me do this. So now if I hopefully hit this trigger button, it should, hey, we're in business. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That took a while, but this is where we kind of wanted it to be. We have, oh, thank you for the applause. Thank you so much. Anyway, so you can see that's tracking pretty well, right? I can play with this, and let's, if I hit final right now. Now we have to still beam the signals into the preview signal and get it set up. But this is the basic setup for getting the tracking working, right? Which is like, if you're here already, that's pretty good, right? You're in a good spot because, let's see if I do this one more time on the origin. And let's say I move my virtual production set, because this is also cool, right? I wanted to set up a chair, right? Or a table that I want to work with, because I could easily work in my studio. So let's I put this on a chair, right? And now if I do detect origin, I have the chair as the point of reference of the 0 point, right? And this just makes it a little bit more comfortable here. Now, you can see here, I'll just mention this quickly, this virtual representation of this green screen happening right here in this little preview here, and I'm holding the phone. Let me just get this here. This is where you need to match up the green screen with your actual one, right? So in the studio setup here, there's a lot of, I know this is a lot of information, but bear with me. In the studio information here, if you're in studio and click on studio, you can select how far your wall is, right? In my case, my wall is really close to me, and this is in meters, right? So it's best to actually just do a actual measurement and just input all these values into here, right? So we don't have any floor, right? Actually the floor, no, floor, you can deselect that. Ceiling, show floor, track talent, show cam height. I want to just disable the floor. So say you, so it's actually working in real time. Okay, that's fine. I just looking for where to disable this. Okay, so if you have more green screen, you can actually paint it here. So this is a very manual process. I'm not going to go in because I don't want to waste more. This is a very like time consuming process, right? Where you need to set this up. So let's just try to get, so we can see something on our Unreal scene, right? Project it back in Aximmetry and try to maybe record it or get it quickly set up, right? So go to final. Now, what's happening on final is interesting, why it's not working. And let's have a look at the flow. Why is this not working in our setup? Are we using the tracking? Yeah, yes. Control pins, Matt says. Are we using the control pins? Control data, yes. You see, it's so good to have such smart viewers. So perfect. There we go. So we have some kind of, okay, what's going on here? This is interesting. So we have the control pins. Oh, do we need also these? Probably, I'm guessing. And Where are we looking right now? I'm wondering where's my billboard. Or, oh, actually, no, I don't have any video happening here because there's no video being thrown in, although it should show me the video coming out from my phone, which I should be able to just connect into here, right? Into either the AR overlay? No, not AR overlay. Wait, is this getting a signal? No, this is not getting a signal. Let me just quickly here set up this. So you can see that my iPhone. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a lot of signal from
noise from the background. Apologies for that. Nope, there's not gonna be any video input module that you're gonna need at this step. If you head to inputs, you can actually first confirm whether you receive any input or not.
So let's have a look here. Maybe so it's actually set up in the video. Let's have a look.
Nope.
No.
Aximmetry Eye handles itself automatically.
I see.
You don't have to manage any devices.
All right. So let's try that. So how would it, because it's set up here, right? I have it here.
Yep, and if you in the monitor control panel select the input button, you should see the video input. It's on the monitor 1 control panel and the input button.
On the monitor control panel.
Monitor 1 control panel.
Yeah.
But yep.
Yeah, I can see that.
There's your input.
Yeah, I see the input, but it's not coming in through the final, right? That's why I'm wondering, do I need a billboard here set up? Or, yeah.
Then it's gonna be the scene control panel that you just selected, and there's use billboards being turned off.
Right. Good.
Without a billboard, there's not gonna be any interaction between the real and the virtual world.
Got it.
Because there is no virtual model on which we could project the image.
So I turned on billboards. Okay, that's interesting. What's going on here now? That's interesting.
That's the scene being a bit far away. But the aspect ratio also seems a bit off.
Okay, I think I know what. I think it's still using my. Okay, got it. So I need to switch here to tracked, I think also. Right.
And that is gonna help, but if the aspect ratio off, then there's a chance that the render engine's rendering resolution and Aximmetry's Eye's streaming resolution do not match.
I see. So let's try again.
Oh, by the way,
yeah.
Hey everyone. Apologies for hopping in.
No, thank you. It's actually very useful because there's a lot of things going on. I've done this a few times on the version before, and it always throws me off when it doesn't detect the signals automatically, because let me just go back here into that scene here, the billboards. If I turn on the billboards now, and interesting.
The billboard's first will probably not appear because the billboard's going to be at the origin of the scene. Billboard's position also needs to be set up.
Right. Let me just try to reset everything then. So I'll try to use this position without being...
If you hop to billboard 1, a control panel, there's supposed to be a button called lock to camera, which essentially will place the billboard straight in front of the camera, of the virtual camera. That's the first switch.
Look at first switch at the top. Lock to camera. Alrighty. Okay, that's a good point. Let me just, if I can.
So it is supposed to be in front of the camera right now.
Let me just do again a origin reset. Okay, interesting. I need to figure that out, why it's doing this kind of weird aspect ratio also. But that's fine. That's part of the...
different resolutions throughout the pipeline.
Okay. Preferences. All right. Go back.
And if you change the orientation of the phone, it will fix itself.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to... Orientation lock off. Orientation lock off. Okay, on. Okay, it does switch, all right, which is fine. Okay.
But I do not see Aximmetry switching.
Yeah, I think that's weird. Let me just hit record again, so it's actually streaming.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, something's happening. So now,
Aspect ratio getting normal.
yeah, the aspect ratio is getting normal, and I have a preview here on the 1080p coming out of this signal, which is okay. So this is this one, I think. But why is it getting this automatically like that? Okay, what if I go like this?
The overlay in Aximmetry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in Aximmetry Eye, it happens because probably preview was also selected as a function. So it tries to receive a video stream from Aximmetry Composer. And once you pop up the video outputs menu within Aximmetry Composer, it sends out the overlay onto every single screen available or connected to the computer so that you can differentiate between which one is which, and you can decide where to output your video output.
I see. Okay. Let me just try again one more time if I can get just the calibration going here. If I go like this and go studio. Because this seems to be working fine here. Studio, okay. Origin. Go back to the origin.
If you still do not see the output in the final view, then it can only be down to 3 items. Either the billboard is not set up properly, the studio mask is not set up properly, or the camera's field of view is not capturing the model or talent that you want to capture.
That makes sense. Okay.
It's one of the 3.
I'm trying to see if I can see anywhere the billboard, but I don't. No.
There's the light bulb on the billboard 1A control panel. If you turn it on, then you should be able to see the billboard's model. Oh, that's the, there's the billboard.
Okay. So the billboard is there.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's just not getting the data, right? Not getting the video, right? For some reason. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you, Ella. Yeah, I think I'll figure out the technical, this last part, right? Which is getting everything working all together, right? Which is the fun, the most interesting part. And get back to just with a solid solution, because I'm probably missing one, just mentioned by Matt, either one of those things I missed, right? Or something's just with the settings here. Allow virtuals.
Or the keyers.
Yeah, or the
alternative.
Or the keyer doing something weird. Let me just switch it off. Do I get it? Anything? No. And I'm getting a lag because my phone is actually being overheated right now. So that's why I showed you, like, you get a really short span of time where you can work if you're not cooling down the phone. So just be sure to take care of that, right? Yeah, questions, please, because I know that this has been a lot of information and just generally a lot of things. I know I couldn't get through the whole thing, but I kind of wanted to show you what it's all about, right? How to work with Aximmetry and how cool it is, and essentially once it's working. So that's really where I leave you with this, and I hope that this gives you a sense. So open to questions, please fire ahead, and we'll move from there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bartosz, for showing us how to set it up, and thank you, Matt, for helping us troubleshoot it as well. I had a question. In your experience, I would imagine that, and it's a best case use if you have some type of a green sheet, like a green screen to use the Aximmetry Eye application with. What are some maybe more easier accessible solutions to that if you don't have a green screen at your home? Maybe just a green cloth or something?
Yeah, you can get away with even a green cloth because the keyer is so good. That's why I market my Aximmetry. I'm not getting paid by them, I'm getting sponsored by them, but they deliver a result that even if you have a crappy green screen, you'll be happy with it. And blue works too if you're working, especially in daylight. It works really well. Yeah, you use also daylight, right? Daylight is your probably best big green screen, right?
Sure. Another, not really a question, but a point I wanted to mention is that unfortunately, um, only iPhones use the LiDAR technology, so the application is also not available for Android users.
Right.
Sad.
And
I-
as a
That's the
when it comes to it's a good point. If you're working on Android, yeah, just use Blender and a tracking application and track your camera there. I know, yeah, I know it makes. I can recommend an app that just does it in one click, and you get a beautiful camera track that you can pipe into Aximmetry and start working with your video footage. If you don't have an iPhone, and the app costs like I think $20, so it's less than an iPhone. But yeah, but you get the point. An iPhone is nice because it just does it in real time with the Aximmetry Eye. That's really cool that it's happening everything in life, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point. Like that's the benefit of using Aximmetry Eye is exactly that it's all happening on your phone. But then if you don't have an iPhone, then yeah, that suggestion of yours is a good alternative. And I just wanted to point people again to Aximmetry's website where they have their knowledge base there, which is what Bartosz was using to check the documentation. If you just go on their website, aximmetry.com, scroll all the way down and click on knowledge base. On the side there, you have access to documentation on how to use their software and the Aximmetry Eye application. And also it goes more in depth into how to set up LED wall productions, all sorts of things.
Thank you.
So really,
Any last thoughts,
Sure.
Victoria, for the next sessions? What's your plans for the guild? I'll also put this talk up online if that's fine.
Yes, please do, and I'll share it as well with my Teams audience, with my university and my network. But other than that, we have a lot of fun up and coming sessions scheduled. One that talks about the convergence of virtual production and sustainability and those kinds of ethical issues surrounding the use of virtual production. Um, and yeah, other than that, follow Bartosz, follow Aximmetry. And if anyone else has any other specific questions about the workshop or anything else, then I'm also happy to answer those right now. If Bartosz, if you have some closing thoughts, anything to leave our viewers with.
Yeah, closing thoughts. Have fun with the technology. It's free. Download it. Don't get overcumbered with the technicalities. Just try to act as it's part of the fun of the game, of working out these little ins and outs of how to do things step by step in order for it to work. I tried to make it as simple as possible, and I also ran into problems, as you can see. It's not that straightforward, even for somebody who has years and years of experience of doing this. I also get tangled up if I don't go back into the documentation, or like somebody doesn't tell me, hey, you forgot a checkbox there. It's usually that case. So a lot of people get really frustrated or discouraged by the complexity of all this software, and I just say, have fun with it. I mean, don't do it for a joke, right? Try to make fun out of it and see if you can just get a basic scene working, add something, and if you get that basic feed. And from what I've learned, to be honest, most clients in the virtual production space do not care that much about tracking. It's a gimmick. It's something that we as filmmakers love and we're excited about it. But at the end of the game, they just want their production done. And if it's a stable camera and they get a beautiful green and a replaced background, you don't need to go into a whole world of problems, because you don't show the client that tracking is something that they want or need, because they don't even, like, we understand it as filmmakers, obviously, but our people who buy films or finance films, they really don't care that much.
Yeah, true, exactly. It produces a beautiful shot, and I think that's where all the adoption of like a 2.5D workflow comes into play these last few months. There's been a lot of resurgence of this, especially in convergence with AI, and so you have these like AI backgrounds that are very well versed in like static cam shots. So if you, yeah, like you said, if you make a beautiful shot out of it, the tracking aspect is cool. It's a cool aspect that virtual production brings, but yeah, it brings a lot of issues. I agree.
You want to wow the clients, but you don't want to kill your team at the same time. You know what I mean, right? It's a balance of picking the right tools for the right job, and so everybody's happy at the end of the game. I've had, stressful productions, but also productions that were super nice and smooth because we had everything worked out. The client knew what he was expecting from it. And you know how it is on virtual production. Hey, because when they go into virtual production, people, they say they have a belief that they can change anything on set and it will just work. And that's exactly not the case. And at this contrary, that's the whole point of virtual production, that you can do it. So it's being prepared for those changes and everything. So yeah, that's my ending thought. And I hope the workshop was useful. And yeah, let's keep in touch. Victoria, thank you again for organizing it. Matt and everybody else who contributed, Paul, who comments. Thank you so much. And I'll see you soon. And we'll keep the ball rolling, right? I want to create a website where we also share. So if you can, through Victoria, beam your information that you are part of this community and you're working, and this is something that you are passionate about, please send it to Victoria, and we'll try to coordinate it to have it up on the website with this talk and everything.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much again for everyone that joined. Yeah, and let's keep in touch. Let's keep this community growing, and let's centralize it.
Yeah, we'll coordinate next date. And thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. It was great, Bartosz. Thank you for organizing, Victoria.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. See you guys.
Thanks for everyone.